So Donald Trump is now promoting a new song called The Chosen One by Natasha Owens. He posted this on Truth Social and had this to say: Trump one hitmaker Natasha Owens declares former president the chosen one with new single. I know what you're thinking. I know how ridiculous this all sounds, but folks, get a load of these lyrics. I promise you Bob Dylan is rolling over in his grave and he's not even dead yet. Listen to these lyrics. I'm not saying he's something divine. He gets in trouble bigly time after time. He's controversial, but one thing is true. Imperfect people are perfect God can use. Now, I'm going to take back something that I used to say a long time ago. I used to say, yeah, anybody can write a song. I mean, it's not hard. Anybody can do it. Everybody should give it a try. I take that back. People like Natasha Owens should just completely set this one out. But she did have this to say about the song. I certainly know that President Trump is not the Messiah, but throughout the Bible, a perfect God has used many imperfect men to do great things for his kingdom. We are in a battle between good and evil, and I believe God has chosen President Trump to push back against the evil in our country and the evil in this world. President Trump is the chosen one. So MAGA has been using this argument for some time now that God calls imperfect people to do his works. And I would say that's not really the flex that you think it is, because what you got to remember is the Bible at the end of the day was a book written by imperfect men. So sure, they could go in that book and say, hey, I know I did all these atrocious things. I know I committed all these crimes against humanity and against Christians themselves, but now I've saw the light and now I see things differently. God has put me in this position. So they could easily write it and make themselves the winner in that scenario. And again, the Bible is the most edited book in history. It's been edited time and time again for different political reasons and for different churches and organizations that had to alter it to fit the times that they were living in. So that's not really the flex that they think it is. But what in the hell is she talking about exactly when she talks about how we're in a battle of good versus evil, and she acts as though Trump is on the side of good? What about Donald Trump reflects goodness? What about Donald Trump reflects the teachings of Jesus Christ? Now, I had to dust off my Bible for this one, and I still read and study it all the time because of people like this, okay? And we're going to turn to Matthew chapter 5, verse 43. I'm reading from a King James Version here. It says, you have heard it been said, love thy neighbor and hate thy enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. When have we ever saw Donald Trump say that? When have we ever saw Donald Trump say that MAGA should love their enemies? All he's talked about is revenge and retribution, and if they can do it to me, we can do it to them. So where exactly is the love your neighbor and love your enemy part coming from Donald Trump? It goes on to say, for if you love them which love you, what reward have you? Do not even the publicans do the same? And if you salute your brethren only, what do you do more than others? Do not even the publicans do so? Be ye perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. So are they telling me that Donald Trump is perfect? And wasn't it Donald Trump who said recently in an interview, he said out loud that, well, I don't know, religion's a good thing because it's got heaven. And if there wasn't heaven, there would be no reason to be good. We wouldn't have to be good if there was heaven. The Bible is saying to him, if that's the only reason why that you're believing, then what good is it? So how does Donald Trump mirror that? And if you go over to Matthew chapter 25, I've read this one before. He talks about in the last day of the day of judgment that there's going to be people stand up before him, and he's going to say to them, you never fed the hungry. You never clothed the naked. You never gave the thirsty something to drink. Depart from me, for I never knew who you were. And they're going to say to him, but God, when did we not do those things? And he'll say, when you didn't do it for the least of my brethren, you didn't do it for me. So where on the Republican platform and where in Donald Trump's platform is there talk of feeding the hungry? Where is there talk about giving the thirsty something to drink or welcoming the strangers? Donald Trump goes out of his way all the time to talk about they're poisoning the blood, we got to root out the vermin, and he paints everyone as the enemy. Every time he opens his mouth, he finds a way to paint us all as the enemy. And if we go right here to Matthew chapter 7, starting at verse 15, this pretty much sums it up in a nutshell, folks. This is Jesus talking, says, beware of false prophets which comes to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes or thorns or figs or thistles? For every good tree brings forth good fruit, and every corrupt tree brings forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit? And right here, this is kind of the main punchline. Not everyone that says unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that does the will of my Father which is in heaven. So my argument to anyone out there who wants to sit and say, oh, well, Trump's been called by God, he's not perfect, but God calls imperfect people. Right there in your book, in the words in red, Jesus Christ says, strive to be perfect and do the will of my Father in heaven. Donald Trump can't even name one verse. He was asked about the two testaments, and he said he liked both equal. He said he went to the Sunday churches. He clearly does not know what he's talking about when it comes to religion. Now, when you get on over into the book of Revelation, I did forget this part. When you get on over into the book of Revelation, it talks about the beast that will rise up and all the antichrists that will come and all the people that will get deceived. And in the very end, it talks about how Jesus Christ himself will be the one to come back and save the day from everybody else. So whatever happens, Jesus is going to be the one to come back and save everyone, not some billionaire from the West. I would challenge any Bible scholar to dive in there deeply in the book of Revelation and find me one verse of scripture where it says a guy from the West whose daddy gives him a small loan of $1 million and who gets found liable of sexual abuse and who gets found guilty of fraud and who becomes a convicted felon for paying hush money to a porn star that he cheated on his wife with while she was pregnant. Find that for me and tell me where it says that will be the guy that will save the day. Because in the end, if you flip to the very end of the Bible, you're getting right near the last couple of words here in Revelation 21, verse 8. It says, starting at 7, it says, he that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. But to the fearful, Donald Trump has done nothing but spread fear and propaganda. To the unbelieving, he clearly has said he didn't believe and didn't understand why he should have to ask for forgiveness. The fearful, the unbelieving, the murderers, the whoremongers, definitely a whoremonger, the sorcerers, the idolaters, and all liars. How many lies he tell? Over 30,000. All liars shall have their part in the lake of fire, which burneth with fire and brimstone, and is the second death. So even if he did call imperfect people at one point in time, once the book of Revelation is completed, he is going to be the guy to come down and save the day, and everyone who has been out there sinning against him, he's going to put them down in the lake of fire. So this idea that Donald Trump is out there and he's the chosen one is so ridiculous. And some of the imagery, take a look at this. Look how ridiculous this imagery is. That one's terrible. And if you think that one's bad, what in the hell is Jesus doing sitting here with Ted Nugent? That's like some of the most ridiculous artwork I've ever seen, and yet Trump will promote that stuff and take that mantle up like, yeah, I'm the chosen one. And people buys into it. Folks, this is not normal. It never was normal. It never should be normal. And the fact that people goes to a church and stands there and lets their minister say these kind of things and doesn't call him out for it, it's the blind leading the blind. It truly is. I got up and walked out of a church 22 years ago because the minister was telling me that the war in Iraq was a good idea and that George W. Bush was a man of God. And I could not sit there and listen to him do that. I could not sit there and listen to his pro-Republican rants every week. And so I got up and walked away back then. And here lately I've said to myself, dang, by today's standards, W kind of looks like a voice of reason, which should scare the shit out of anybody. Because that dude should never get a pass. He was a terrible president. But at least I do believe he was raised around Christianity. I do believe he had a better understanding of it. At least he attended church. I guarantee he could quote some scripture or quote his favorite verse. At least he had that. Trump has none of that, and then this bizarre behavior just continues, and they keep trying to find a way to dig in and justify it, and it's absolutely disgusting. So the next time your minister stands up and starts talking about how people aren't coming back to the church and everybody's turning away from it and nobody wants to come back, take a long look in the mirror. Take a long look and do some self-reflecting and ask yourself, why would anybody want to come and join up with a group of people who puts that kind of guy on a pedestal and calls him the chosen one? That's what's driving people away from the church. It's not atheist, it's not evil, it's not any of those things that's driving people away from the church. It's the church driving people away from the church.